Good evening, and welcome to Unity of Boulder for the Wednesday evening meditation. I'd like to start tonight with a clearing prayer. So if we can just get comfortable in the seats, and welcome to everyone who is streaming online. Ask you to join us in this clearing prayer. Mother, Father, God, we ask for a clearing of this space and give thanks for this clearing. We ask for a clearing of ourselves and give thanks for this clearing. We ask that our guides and angels and the spirits of our ancestors come to us now and vibrate close to us so that we can sense their loving presence with us here tonight. We give them permission to touch the light within us, and we allow that light to grow and vibrate through our being, removing any blocks and barriers, any fears, any resistance we hold within ourselves, any misalignment, or anything that seemingly separates us from the light. We touch it gently with our light and transform it into light. With each easy, gentle transformation, we allow our light to grow and expand and move beyond ourselves. We ask that all our individual lights join together in this moment to form one great light. We send this light out into our community, touching it and blessing it with love and with light, wherever it is called, wherever it is needed. We send this light into our homes, blessing and aligning our homes with love and light. We bless our families, our friends, our loved ones, our neighbors, our associates, those we have met, those we will meet, and those we will never meet. We ask that we all in this moment now feel the power and love in this connection of light. We send this light forward across this planet, a holy, radiant web of light that is aligning us all, connecting us all in one love and one light. And we send this light to touch the heart of our Mother Earth, blessing her and giving thanks to her for her bountiful gifts and all of her goodness. And we say a special blessing for anyone you may know seeking wellness. And we direct those blessings to every request in the prayer box. So a number of months ago, Santisha asked me if I would do this meditation tonight. And every time I thought about doing it, I was reminded of what for the longest time was my most favorite Course in Miracle passage. It's text 391 from the Old Text. The body cannot know. And while you limit your awareness to its tiny senses, you will not see the grandeur that surrounds you. God cannot come into a body, nor can you join him there. Limits on love will always seem to shut him out and keep you apart from him. The body is a tiny fence around a little part of a glorious and complete idea. It draws a circle, infinitely small, around a very little segment of heaven, splintered from the whole, proclaiming that within it is your kingdom, where God can enter not. Within this kingdom, the ego rules and cruelly. And to defend this little speck of dust, it bids you fight against the universe. For so long, this was my favorite quote, but every time I would go back to read it in preparation for doing this meditation, I didn't resonate with it like I always used to. What do you mean God can't come into a body? How can we ever be separate from God? And so even as late as last week, I still wasn't sure how that was going to integrate into this until I started typing it out. And when I typed it out, I was typing fast. And instead of typing the word body, I typed the word belief. And then it made complete sense to me. Your belief system is a tiny fence around a little part of a glorious and complete idea. It draws a circle infinitely small around a very little segment of heaven, splintered from the whole, proclaiming that within it is your kingdom, where God can enter not. Within this kingdom, the ego rules and cruelly, and to defend this little speck of dust, it bids you fight against the universe. So tonight, I want to talk a bit about beliefs. I'm going to tell you when I first started examining my belief system, and I'll start by saying I grew up Catholic. And for the longest time, I was looking for the God that I felt I was in search of in the Catholic Church. I went to Mass every single day for years and didn't find it there. I started studying the teachings of Edgar Cayce. I read The Search for God. I found something there, but I didn't find what I was looking for. I was living in Connecticut, in New Haven, which just happens to be the pizza capital of the world. I had recently had a long-term relationship end, and I was devastated. I was really heartbroken. And in the midst of that pain, I kept hearing Colorado. And so I made plans to come to Colorado. First, I was going to go to Golden and spend some time at Mother Cabrini Shrine. And then I felt a pull towards Boulder. I arrived in Boulder late on a Friday night, and on Saturday morning when I opened the shades of the hotel that I was in, I saw the Flatirons, and it literally took my breath away. I felt like I was home. Now, going back before that, before I was leaving Connecticut, I had a friend who was a very psychic woman, and she said to me, when you get to Boulder, there is this little old woman, and if you bring her your spit, she will tell you why you have asthma. And I had really struggled with breathing difficulties since I was very young. I thought this idea was interesting, but I didn't think about it again. And back in those days, you had to go to a travel agency. You got a paper ticket that was often handwritten. It went into a little travel sleeve envelope, and that's what you used when you got to the airport. So the day of the trip to Colorado comes, and I'm hurrying out the door. I get to the very first traffic light, and it dawned on me that I left this ticket on the side table next to my couch. And I'm telling you this in detail because I want you to hear all the synchronicities that lined up that gave me the power and the will to question my beliefs. So as I go back into the house, I'm running up the stairs, and as I'm running up the stairs, I hear the voice of my psychic friend, telling me where I will find this woman. I jotted down the address and her name, Hannah Kroger. I headed to the airport. I didn't give it another thought until I was driving around Boulder, totally enchanted by its beauty, this feeling of spirit that was everywhere I looked. And at one point, I was stopping at a stop sign, which, by the way, we're supposed to do when we get to a stop sign, for those of you that don't remember that part of driving class. I look up and I see the name of the road I'm crossing is Valmont Road. That name rings a bell. So I pull out the jacket envelope that my ticket is in, and I see that is where I'll find Hannah. I'm about a mile away, so I drive there. When I pull into the driveway, I see this little old woman who looked like a cross between Mother Teresa and Yoda. She's standing in the doorway, she's waving at me, and she says, "Hurry, you're late." I figured that she was expecting somebody else, but I was there, so I hurried in. Without any hesitation, she whips out her little pendulum and starts holding it out in front of my body, and it's spinning like a top. There's a man standing close to her, writing down what she's saying, and Hannah had a very thick German accent, and I didn't understand a word she was saying. I said to her, "My friend told me to come and leave you my saliva, and you would tell me why I have asthma." She stopped, looked up at me, puzzled, and said, "Honey, why do I need your saliva if you're standing right in front of me?" And so I figured I didn't make a good first impression. Her pendulum took off again. She ran it up and down my body, calling out words that I later would find out were the herbs and the homeopathics that would address the ills that I showed up with. She held the pendulum out in front of my heart, and it stopped. It just hung there. And she said, "You have a broken heart. You can't let her do that to you. Jesus has plans for you." I was speechless. She turned around and said, "You'll be back." And just like that, she was gone. The gentleman gave me the list of the products and directed me to her store. My head was spinning on the drive there. I had so many questions, and I couldn't even fathom an answer. When I got the products, just as I was leaving, the clerk said, "Oh, here is a brochure for her 4-day classes that she has all summer long." Now, fast forward 1 month, I'm sitting in her classroom, which was essentially an old army barrack. I was having my mind blown by what she was teaching. She had cures for diseases that I had never even imagined. Curing serious diseases with magnets. She had a drink, the formula of which would help improve your eyesight. She had ways of removing dark forces and negative energies. She showed us all how to use the pendulum and how to tune in to our inner sense of knowing. After the 3rd day, I remembered leaving during a break and driving to the end of the driveway and not knowing which way I was going, left or right. And I heard a voice that said very clearly, "If you are serious about gaining the wisdom that she is offering you, you need to suspend your beliefs around a lot of things." A lot of things I thought I knew. So I worked and studied with Hannah for 5 years. And I saw so many things that were outside anyone's conventional belief system. I saw things and heard stories so out of this world that I had to keep asking myself, what if this is right? What if you can do these things? I met doctors who used magnets to cure their patients' disease. And she said that she learned it from a Native American, a shaman, who would smack together lodestones to charge them magnetically, lay them on the body. The person would lay still for 3 days and the disease would be gone. I saw things that to this day people would say were impossible. And it was a normal, regular occurrence in that world. But it took me being able to at least suspend my beliefs. And so in thinking about that, I realized that our culture and our religions promote a belief, the biggest belief, that heaven is separate and apart from us, distant from our physical bodies. Heaven's up there somewhere. Even though Jesus said, heaven is in the midst of us. These institutions created big buildings that reached higher on the horizon than any other building around it. Those buildings made it seem they were closer to heaven. They further ingrain these ideas by using the finest building materials to build them. Marble, stained glass, gilded woodwork. They employed the finest artists to paint the ceilings with realistic imaginings of heaven. They hung crosses that their Savior was nailed to, so we would be reminded of the suffering he endured for the sins we either committed or were yet to commit. They created rituals and ceremonies around these beliefs. They adorned their leaders with fancy hats and robes because the priests, the bishops, the popes, and the rabbis were the intermediaries. They inhabited these sacred spaces. These men were the keepers of the knowledge, the sacred writings, and they had special powers to bless, anoint, marry, judge, and forgive the rest of us. And we believed them. And in doing so, we built beliefs around our divinity. We built a tiny fence around a little part of a glorious and complete idea. That belief draws a circle, infinitely small, a very little segment of heaven, splintered from the whole, proclaiming that within it is your kingdom where God can enter not. And so it's important to understand that there are two different ways of perceiving the outside world. Through beliefs and also through resonance. When you believe in something, your pattern is a closed loop. You are living within the confines of those tiny fences. And that system will protect itself from anything external that questions that belief. When you resonate, you don't have to believe. When you're exposed to a concept that resonates with you, you find that the components create a feeling of harmony. That's the resonance. Like notes of a chord being played. You can hear and feel each note when it combines with the others. and they resonate in harmony. And when you hear a note that is not in harmony with the other notes being played, we hear and feel the dissonance. When something is resonating, we naturally gravitate to it. That resonance will make you look for more details, more depth, and more meaning. The resonance is an expansion. And that's what we're looking for when we try to integrate heaven into our being. Resonance causes expansion. Beliefs cause us to contract. Resonance leads to knowing. And knowing is within all of us. When we're in alignment with our God, our higher self, our connection to the oneness, whatever we call it, there's a sense of knowing. I think of all the times that I was exposed to something beyond my imagination through the years of working with Hannah. And each time there was a knowing. At some point, I didn't have to ask, what if? But that knowing is something that we can all tune into. And part of the evidence that we receive around resonance is synchronicity. All of the little pieces that got me to Hannah's that day. If I didn't forget my ticket, that message would have sat on my answering machine for the 10 days or 2 weeks I was in Colorado. And when I actually listened to it, I would have been back in Connecticut. I wrote it on the ticket jacket. And instead of leaving the ticket in my suitcase where it would have been safe, I decided to put it in the bag that I was carrying. The first street sign that I noticed in Boulder was Valmont, the street she lived on. She was standing in the doorway, holding it open, telling me I was late. She knew I was heartbroken. She knew I'd come back. Every one of those synchronicities made it possible for me to examine the belief system that I brought with me from my parents, from church, from schools, from friends, from the television shows I watched, from the music I listened to. Every one of them I had to question. Our higher self is not something separate and apart from us. Our bodies are the anchor for the spirit and the soul in this third dimensional world. It's that simple. We embody the spirit and soul physically, and the spirit and soul experiences matter, time, and space through us. The evidence of resonance is in part through the synchronicity. And the synchronicity occurs when our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions are in alignment. That's what it takes. Our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. So we can use synchronicity and how it shows up in your life as a good indication as to how aligned those three things are. Now, I'm not distinguishing between the mind and the heart. Nothing is separate. Polarity is not defining separate things. North and south, in and out, here and there. They're aspects of one single thing. If we're in balance with what we feel about anything and what we know about that thing and act accordingly, we will have resonance. Beliefs lead to repeating the same patterns, which reinforces the belief, making it seem real. A lie repeated many times becomes a belief. There's some problems inherent with beliefs. We want others to believe these same things too, right? The disciples of any religion are always looking to convert non-believers to their way of thinking, to their way of acting, to their way of living. And there's power in those numbers. The more people believe like me, that just makes what I believe in even more real. And it makes that belief a truth. And here's the real problem. The more that belief is right, the more any other conflicting belief is wrong. The more my belief is right, the more any other conflicting belief is wrong. And when your beliefs are sanctioned or proffered by those with power in positions of authority, held by people with weapons and armies, and these people really want others to believe the way they do, we know what happens. People forcing their beliefs on others with different beliefs, with different gods, historically, have either been converted or killed. Now, faith is the currency that maintains our beliefs, because faith is what it takes to perpetuate the belief. A belief that is not apparent in our reality requires faith. And the problem with faith is we accept something as true without examining the evidence. Faith doesn't require critical thinking or really tapping into how you feel about a thing. Blindly believing requires faith. And there's a lot of people that are very happy, very comfortable, and feel completely secure, blindly believing, and living within the confines of that tiny fence. And there they find meaning. And that works for them. Now, not all of our beliefs are false or wrong, but they often don't lead us to truth. Resonances do. Resonance with the belief is the test. We can hold our beliefs about ourselves, and we can test them. Do you believe yourself to be a good parent, a good partner, a good citizen, a good steward of the earth? Is there evidence in your life that reflects it? Let's see. Let's get ourselves comfortable. I'd like to start the meditation by first touching the tips of your fingers with your thumbs. Close your eyes. Be aware of your breathing. And now gently, softly, touch your head. in your face, your nose, your lips, your chin, your neck. Our physical body is the anchor to our spirit and our soul. Many on the spiritual path think the object of enlightenment is getting free of the body, that we try to go up to other dimensions, to other places in time and space. Regarding the body as a prison, a place we're confined to. The journey isn't getting from the physical body, the space that we occupy here, to some space above us. It is bringing the awareness of our divinity into our bodies, into our lives, into our work, our art, our relationships, our way of loving, our very being. Take a deep breath. Feel your body sitting in this chair. Now allow your body to just relax and settle. If a specific belief came up for you during this talk, I want you to hold it now. If not, tune into a belief that you've held for a long time. If that belief was a chord being played on a guitar or piano, is it in harmony? Is there synchronicity aligned with that belief? Take a few moments. Sit with some of your beliefs. Just be aware of them for now. Are they in harmony or not? as you call these beliefs to mind, reflect on how these beliefs have served you. Have they served you? Do they continue to serve you? Have they improved your relationship? Have they fueled your dreams, your ambitions, your goals? Have they helped you love yourself? Have they brought you peace or conflict? As I sit here doing this with you, I see that there are core beliefs that are at the root of my difficulty in letting go. Be honest with yourself. Is it time to let go of some of these beliefs? Is it okay to play with the possibility and imagine what your life would be like without that belief? Answer the question. Does this belief still serve me? And then move on to another belief, something else you hold on to that you didn't find on your own. It was either taught, forced, or just the mass consciousness have you believing it is so. Test it. What does it feel like in your body? Does it bring up stress, dissonance, or peace? Does it put a smile on your face? Now, the point of this isn't to beat yourself up or lament what has been. This is an opportunity to free yourself. To open the gate that surrounds that little speck of the garden. It's taking that fence down. And being willing to step outside. Outside of the belief. Outside of its containment. Beyond its limitations. And once you're on the other side of that fence, you can go anywhere. Take a deep breath and imagine what your life would be without some of these limitations, without that fence. Breathe in the freedom. What do you know? The grass is greener over there. Take another deep breath. For a moment, let your thoughts wander. they go. Join me in setting an intention that the beliefs that we're willing to examine and let go of, with the knowledge that if you need them, you'll know where to find them. And have the intention that the universe show you with resonance and synchronicity the power and the majesty of life outside that tiny fence that encircles this complete idea that we've cut ourselves off from. Take a deep breath. Stretch your body and sigh. Give thanks for the messages you received. And when you're ready, come back into the room. I like to bring my hands to my heart after a meditation like this and feel the power inside of my breath, of my heart beating. Integrating further the spirit that is accessible and in my divine nature. So be it. We'll take an offering for unity now. If you're watching this online, there are a number of ways you can donate, and the links are going to be right there. Take your offering in your hands and bless it with this offering statement. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And I want to, before we leave, I want to just make a point that back during the time that I was with Hannah, I found unity. Hannah would have a 9 o'clock service every Sunday, and I would leave that service and I would come here. And back in that time, there maybe weren't 10 places in this whole city where you would find the truth that has come from this ministry. A ministry that 4/5 of the Groverland family has devoted their entire life to. And we're living in a different world now, where the internet and YouTube and the various platforms that allow for the truth of our oneness and our divinity to be found in the palm of your hand. And so there's a question as to whether there's a need for a space like this space. And the thing that I always loved about Unity was the community that made up this ministry. The people whose lives were changed. And the thing about Unity is that it doesn't offer salvation by subscription. And so the people whose belief system is based on the faith that if they give enough, they don't have to worry about the details. They don't have to worry about living in resonance. Their faith fuels the belief that the religions with these big buildings have professed. And so I suggest that if you know somebody, if where you work matches donations, it only takes a few, whether it's a year-end tax credit you're looking for, or you want to see a place like this survive in this environment. And make no mistake about it, Boulder is very different now than it was 20 years ago. I like to think that if the Boulder of 20 years ago was to see the Boulder of today, it would smother it with a pillow while it sleeps. And so, what I suggest is to the people that find this, if you found unity at a time in your life where you lacked abundance, where you didn't have the means to make a donation, to tithe on any kind of regular basis, but you left this church with the wherewithal, the confidence, the knowing, and the resonance to make a pretty good life for yourself, consider paying it forward. That's really how most people that have come through these doors have gained the wisdom and the connection to the divine, because the people before them did what they could to keep the doors open. It's in our hands. I thank you all for coming. Have a safe drive home. Many blessings. Good night.